Hey, that was faster than I thought. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty. And here we're having our increasingly occasional pop culture chat with Tom Filsinger. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, good, you?
I'm awesome. Cynthia, Celeste Miller. How you doing, Cynthia?
I'm doing great.
Cynthia? Okay, all right. You might just be a little bit out of sync, so...
Am I really?
Just video and audio aren't quite lined up, but it shouldn't be a big deal. And right above Cynthia in the Brady Bunch grid is Christopher McLaughlin. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. Just literally back from getting the COVID vaccine. And if I could just take a second for a public service announcement, those of you that are on the fence about whether or not you should get the vaccine or not, they're giving stickers. They're giving stickers.
Oh, well.
Seriously. Go get it done. You get a sticker.
Well, all right. I'm definitely going to be in line now.
See? All it takes.
So, hey, let's talk pop culture. What's everyone been reading lately?
Hey.
What you got, Tom?
Anybody seen this yet? This is called The Department of Truth miniseries, a series that's going on right now, I guess. That's been picked up for television, I heard.
Oh,
So it's on issue number 7, but the place I go to in Flagstaff, they said this is a good way to get caught up and it's being well received. So I thought I'd give it a chance. It's called Department of Truth. The reason it caught my notice, which really irritated me, I always call my classes the Department of Truth. That's what I tell them. I said, here, as soon as you walk out of here, you're going to walk into a world of lies. So here's the Department of Truth. And then I saw this out there and I thought I should have trademarked that, obviously. But this gets into the realm of, I guess, secrecy and truth and government cover-ups and what's not a cover-up and what's a conspiracy, what's not. Well, I'm interested in those areas. So I'm one issue in and it's intriguing and I will give a better review next time.
okay. Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that because that's actually the first I've heard of that one. And gosh knows we could use media that would clue us into what's actual news, what's not actual news, and what's not a conspiracy theory. I'm trying to convince certain family members the world is actually round. So any kind of
Well, my big problem with what's going on that way is the government must feel very great because if everything that questions them, are we still? You hearing me?
Yeah.
I think he had a kid emergency, but we're hearing you fine.
What's that?
We can hear you fine. I think Mike just had a kid emergency.
Everything. The idea that conspiracy theory is a slurred term is very convenient for people in power because all they have to do is just take anything that criticizes the official story and say, that's just a stupid conspiracy theory. And I believe that's what's happening. So there's a big difference between people who believe the earth is flat and people who believe a lot of the assassinations of the 60s. There's more to the stories than we've been told. Big difference. And a lot of people want to lump those all together because you don't dare question authority. Well, that's my job. I feel like ever since I was born, that was my job because I've always thought independently and I hope everybody else continues. So regardless of how they label you.
that was a really inspiring speech. I'm sorry I only caught the last few seconds of it, Tom.
Oh, you might not have thought it's inspiring if you heard it all.
Well, it ended really well.
It ended well. Yeah, that's true of a lot of my stuff. If you don't pay attention to content, you're going to really be taken in by me.
All I know is I'm just stoked of the apparent existence of lizard people in our society, right?
Well, if you live in Sedona, you've got to be open-minded, and I think Mike is thinking about that someday. Everything is questioned here, and lizard people are considered real by many people around here. I consider it a good metaphor, actually, for the way some people are. So I take it metaphorically, literally.
And Norbert Franz, one of our listeners and viewers from Germany, is saying hi. Guten Morgen, mein Freund. Hello, friends. How are you doing? Nice to listen to you live. Don't let me distract you. Well, hi. Thanks for piping in, Norbert. Good to see you, sir.
And Norbert is one of my staffers also with Spectrum Games.
Oh, good. Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's a solid fellow. I like Norbert.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, how about you? What are you reading lately?
Well, what an awkward question, because we're still in the midst of Future State, and my opinion on Future State, I have to borrow one of my favorite '70s movies reviews. It's the kind of series that one waits years to avoid. So I'm in this 2-month gap where this 2-month gap because of Future State or whatever it is. This is the first time I have not bought a monthly comic since 1992.
Woo!
So yes, so well done, DC. Yes, but if non-comic stuff counts, I've just read 100 freshman research papers. And I'm reading manuscripts for the next book because I asked people to be done by Monday, so of course they're all coming in today. Not a problem, but it's just funny. It's just funny that everything comes at the deadline, whether it's day job or night job.
Right.
And when I'm not doing like professional stuff, I am in the midst of reading. I'm reading. I'm going to script this gentleman's name, Andy Pasticelli's book on Steely Dan. It's like everything we actually know about this band. So it's been fun hearing some stories about a band that is notoriously secret. It doesn't actually have a lot of stories. And here you go. All right, Tom. Here's one just for you. Okay. All right. Like most people, even if they don't like the band, they're familiar with Reeling in the Years, one of their bigger hits. And there's a line in the song. That weekend of the college you didn't turn out like you planned, and it all has to do with the fact of when the two main guys in the band, Walter Becker, Donald Fagen, got caught in a drug bust at Bard College where they met, and it was a drug raid authorized by G. Gordon Liddy.
Wow. Well, you're right. That's a lot implied there.
Yes. Yes. Yes, so saluting G. Gordon Liddy for helping leading to a Steely Dan song here. All right, but yes, back to comic books. Yes, back to comic books.
Nice.
Well, on the plus side, Future State's only going to last a couple months, as opposed to being the new DC default setting. So silver linings.
But will it?
That's what I heard.
Granted, DC is predisposed to brag about some things, but DC is claiming that it's selling better than anything they've done in years, and Lord knows that's prompted a lot of good and bad and long-lived and short-lived ideas in this industry. And if adding another layer of continuity to the comics where I can't even follow them anymore, if that seems to be the way to go. If it sells, and if it does sell, there's a limit how much I can complain about that, because much as I would love to see the world be like I want it, you got to make $1.01, and if that's what sells for DC, that's fine. They'll just be doing it without my dollar.
That is a surprisingly even-handed critique from you of DC's editorial direction, Chris.
Well, I'm not happy. Well, it dovetails so much with what's going on in wrestling. It's like the current wrestling shows are bragging about like, that's right, our ratings have rocketed up to 1/100th of what they were when the sport was at its peak. Woo! It's like watching two starving bears fighting over an old ham bone. The contest itself just seems increasingly pathetic.
Well, in all fairness, ratings for all cable shows are way down from where they were in the 80s and 90s, just because there's so many more options.
Entertainment now, yeah.
Yeah, Seinfeld was considered that might be a bad option. There are hit shows now. There's shows with over 10 seasons, let's say the CW, that would have been canceled in half a season back in the day. Supernatural, my wife loves it, and can speak to you at length about the nuances of the plot and various seasons, but it would have been canceled in a heartbeat back in the day. And
Yeah.
its audience share has been relatively tiny, but
Well, let me ask this though. I mean,
yeah.
because now we're talking about ratings versus quality. Could anybody argue that wrestling today is as good as it's ever been?
Nah, not for me. Not for me.
I will
Yeah.
argue that it's different than it's ever been. I enjoy a lot of it. I don't enjoy a lot of it.
What parts of it do you enjoy? What parts of it are standing out as really good?
Right now, the parts that stand out as really good is a lot of the promos, and not in the W, because they're so overly scripted. But like on the indies and in the smaller and like a lot of like what John Moxley's been doing on the promos and Eddie Kingston been really good. The stuff in Major League Wrestling has been really good promo wise. And I think that I'm enjoying that a lot more. And that, to be fair, it could be that I had, mostly been watching WWE for like the last 6-7 years. So maybe it's just because, oh crap, here we're back to the older style of not overly scripted stuff that reminds me more of the territory days and such like that. So maybe that could be. It's just because I've been seen so much of the overly scripted stuff that now it's like, oh shit, they can actually say stuff that's not like sounding like the same person. So I think that's my favorite thing about what's going on right now, and also a lot of the talent exchanges between various companies. I am enjoying that. We get to see a lot of different cultures in wrestling that we hadn't been exposed to for a while.
Yeah, I guess comics and wrestling are the same for me. I'm just so grateful that the old stuff is more accessible than ever.
I am with that too. I love me some old school wrestling. Amen. I just love wrestling, period. I can even find good stuff from like the really awful days. Like I really dislike the Ruthless Aggression era. And I really dislike a lot of the Attitude Era, to be honest. But and also, and this is going to be sacrilegious, but the last half of the 60s through most of the 70s, I'm not the biggest fan of.
Wow.
Way too much just brawling, even in NWA, the various territories.
Do you think that was territory wide, that attitude at that time?
Maybe. Just trends as they go. Like right now, we're in the midst of flippity floppity, everybody, and I think it's just a cyclical thing.
I think we just ran Mike off his own show. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to derail the podcast.
We don't need you anyway, Mike.
No, but you guys are raising an interesting point, though. When you compare comics and wrestling, which naturally we would do, what we're talking about is things that have had their glory eras in the past. In other words, but comics are bigger than ever on the big screen. So these genres are evolving quite a bit, it seems, for what it means for them to be good. That's true. The foundation's important, though. Yeah. And with comics, the movies can do whatever they're going to do, but when the movie thing, I'm assuming it's going to be a fad, but it might not be. It's been lasting 20 years now.
Yeah.
So no, it's not. But those people aren't buying comics, is my point.
Right. It does feed back in, correct.
Yeah.
I think another line we could draw between comics and wrestling is, I think to a degree, they're both industries that are learning all the wrong lessons from the internet. Because people that spend a lot of time on the internet talking about comics and tweeting at the companies and tweeting at the creators. And believe me, I'm as soon as we finish this, I'm probably going off to a comics news site. I'm not exempting myself from this, but I'm just saying, for people like me, you had to run comics pretty far in the ground before after 30 years, I finally decided to take a couple of months off. Right. I am not okay. if I am dead wrong and Future State is the future of comics and it should be, and it will sell so many quantums more, then you should not be listening to me. You know, you should not be listening. You should not be listening to the people that are going to read your comics, whether or not they're actually any good. Your reach out should be to the people that you lost. You should be talking to the people that used to talk about comics on the internet, or maybe people that just want to read some decent comics. I mean, it's being driven by this increasingly vocal and shrinking minority, and it's being driven out of the mainstream. Now, granted, we live in the age of, this is my current favorite term, narrow casting.
Yeah.
You can make a living deliberately ticking off, and to some degree deliberately ticking off and pissing off large portions of your potential audience out there.
Jim Cornette proven that.
well, yeah, absolutely. I listen to his podcast. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with the way that he says a lot of things.
Yeah,
I just give him credit for being incredibly freaking entertaining.
And for living the gimmick. Boy, that dude's gimmick, man. He's playing the hell out of it.
I don't think it's a gimmick. I question how much that is a gimmick.
Is there a point though where
that's a good point?
It was once a gimmick, but now you've been doing it so long, it kind of becomes who you are.
Right. That's kind of how I think it is. And
that's a good
he
point.
Amplifies it. I mean, for entertainment value, he's an entertainer. Always has been, always will be, and I think he understands the value of. Hey, if I don't like something, if I turn that up to 11, people are going to tune in. You know.
Well, I hate to.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, I hesitate to bring this up, but my wife and I were talking about Rush Limbaugh this week because he died this week, and my wife was not a fan of Rush, but I was like, and I'm not necessarily either, but like, you know, when Rush Limbaugh came on back in the early years of the Clinton administration, there were maybe 200 active AM radio stations in America, and right now there's well over 1,500, almost 2,000. Yeah, a lot of them doing his kind of right wing talk radio and format. And it was ridiculously popular. And, love it or hate it, there was an audience for it that he found and just, rode like a trick pony all day. So I was, in regards to DC, if they can do something similar and whether or not you like it, there might be people out there who want to see it. I remember it seems like it's almost a cottage industry, great indoor sport talking about how you're going to save comics. It's been going on for years now. Yeah. Remember for a while, the idea, and DC was pursuing it. I see a lot of stuff that gets on the newsstand at grocery stores or in bookstores, like digest-sized graphic novels that never hit the comic shop. I thought that was the idea for a long time, was to take kind of that more manga approach, But
well, I tell you what, you guys keep talking. I have a visual aid just out of reach. I'm going to go get my visual aid.
Okay.
Carry on.
That's the professor in him. I get the visual aid.
It is Professor. Well, now we have some awkward silence while Chris is away, and we wait for his visual aid and wrapped.
Well, here I have something I could say. I try to keep up with comics because as a writer myself, and because I'm writing news stories for Champions of the Galaxy every year, I love to feed off the energy of other creators. I love to see creative people at work and just to enter that mind space. So that's my main. So I'm always looking for comic books that will entertain me. Sure. And sometimes successful, sometimes not. I'll go in and out of runs. I'm not going to read every Hulk book, but I will read the Hulk when it's got something going on I like. That's the way I read comics nowadays.
Makes sense.
Chris, you're back, sir.
Yes. Well, but on my last big comics reading binge, I was in the lower levels of Bronze Age Marvel. I bought all 18 issues of The Human Fly.
Wow,
that's a cry for help, pretty much. And along the way, I took a chance on the one comic that my parents actually discouraged me from reading.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the thing is, how do you explain this title to your parents? And secondly, if you're a younger comic reader, which used to be the target audience, how do you even explain what this book is about? Well, here you go.
Right.
Here you go. The genius of Marvel Comics.
My dad was one that introduced me to him.
Oh my!
Your parents are. I should have known that awesome sprang from awesome.
Aw,
Okay,
you're so
check
sweet.
this out. Check this out. Okay, issue 5. I just turned issue 6. You just turned it to it at random here. Check out at the top of the first page.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what, 4 lines.
Yes.
4 lines that explains everything you need to know about the character, what his deal is. And the thing is, even though this is issue 6, it doesn't matter if this is the 6th or the first issue that you're picking up.
Great jumping on point. Yeah.
Yes, they remembered back then that every comic is somebody's first comic. Okay, granted, I waited 40 years for the nice bound edition, but here you go. If I was a little kid plucking this off the newsstand right there, 4 lines, I know this character's deal. So,
hey, Chris, let me just say this. And I rarely will say something that's in defense, but they all do that. I mean, today, if you pick up a Marvel comic, I got Captain Marvel right here. You know, the first line in the first page always is who Captain Marvel is, what she's about. And it's
good.
all of them do that.
not
I'm
DC
glad to
doesn't.
hear that.
No.
DC does not.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys know about this thing they're doing on Planet Money with comic books?
A what?
NPR Planet Money show they do on Saturday afternoons. They bought a comic book character. Well, they found a public domain comic book character. They got Alex Segura from Archie Comics to do the story. Ordway drew it, and they're gonna. I think they're putting out issues. Let me hang on. I got it up here off NPR.org. They were trying originally to get the Doorman from DC, and DC wouldn't even talk to him. So they got a guy from the Golden Age called Microface.
Microface. From the Golden Age? No, that doesn't look like Golden Age.
No, this is brand new story. Like I said, let's see, it's on sale. Shop.npr, you can buy it. They went searching through thousands of public domain characters and fell in love with 1940 Sonic Avenger Microface. He's everything a podcast could have hoped for: super sensitive hearing, photoelectric vision, and the kicker, a microphone strapped to his face. That's why he's Microface. Okay. And because it's public domain, everyone.
Me all these years.
Yeah.
This guy sounds like a failure of modern psychiatric care more than he does a superhero.
And that's public domain, huh?
Yeah, public domain. Story by Alex Segura,
cool.
who I believe Alex Segura is the current guy at Archie Comics. Cover art by Jerry Ordway, interior art by Peter Krause, who I think is an up-and-comer. Lettering by Taylor Esposito, coloring by Ellie Wright, shtick by Planet Money.
Wow.
Yeah, so they'll spend the next couple of weeks making this comic book, sharing every step of the process, and then you will receive the first edition copy of Planet Money's Mysterious Microface 1. Depending on how this goes, there might be a number 2, but no promises. So,
Wow.
yeah, this is happening right now. This is this story was literally on the radio just yesterday. So
that is so cool. I'm gonna have to check that out just for the sheer absurdity of it.
what you got there, buddy?
You know,
Got a Y-wing, dude.
Weird
Ooh.
characters. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
There we go.
that's my that's my son
Lego
coming.
Y-wing?
Lego Y-wing. Yeah, he just got that for his 8th birthday, which was Friday.
I may have to
Y-wing's
leave early.
actually
I
my
can't top
favorite
that.
Starfighter in Star Wars. Yeah.
I cannot top a Lego Y-wing. I got nothing. Really.
We're defenseless.
Here's the camera up here, buddy. There you go. Yeah, he's got the Mandalorian ship upstairs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Can we come over to your house?
And play.
You guys are welcome whenever you want. If you get to the northern suburbs of Denver,
You know what's got to be the greatest feeling is when your father's working, he's talking about comics. I mean, that's got to be a good feeling. You're not going into your separate office to do accounting.
This is the only office I have, Tom.
Yeah, well, at least you're doing fun stuff in it.
I'm trying to. Yeah. So, yeah, I was we were watching Rogue One earlier. Now we're waiting to start episode 4.
It's one of my favorites. I love Rogue One.
Here's to my 50s being a lot like I wanted like my single digit ages to be, like having movies and comic books, and
That's right.
Here's to that.
There's a Shakespeare quote about that. I forget what it is. Second childhood, but never leave your first. My feeling was don't leave your first.
Amen.
I'm with you.
Then it's easy. Then it stays easy. You don't have to get back to anything.
Okay, so we were
What's that?
That's one of the bombs from the Y-wing.
Actual bombs.
Yeah,
That
there's
is so
there's a
cool.
little button opens and opens the bomb bay door in the back.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Little dial back there. Yeah.
I was going to say we should do a toy podcast, but I'd be so useless on it. I'd be like 30 minutes being going like, "That's so cool, man!"
There's people with hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube who do exactly
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet.
Unboxing videos are huge. It's not even.
Oh, I know.
So-
I watch
so
I
it.
watched the unboxing video for the Hasbro Pulse did the skiff, or not skiff, his sailbar, his barge.
Mhm.
And have you guys seen that
no.
beautiful piece?
This.
Out on there. Have you seen the sail barge toy?
I have
amazing.
not.
And it's like, but it's gigantic, and like you pull off the sides, and there's like all this sculpted interior and like really detailed paint apps, and it's like I forget, it's like $400 or $500,
Wow.
and I mean it's gorgeous. It is a piece of art. It's well thought out, well designed, and just
Wow.
if I was a kid, I'd have been geeking the hell out over it, and I
Man.
still geek the hell out over it, but.
Are we in the golden age of wrestling toys? Because it seems like every time I go to a Target or Walmart, there's a assortment of wrestling figures from various eras.
They certainly
And,
look better now than they did.
I think it's an offshoot from this general phenomenon to the fact that I think a lot of vendors and a lot of venture capitalists have realized that there are some insanely nerdy, geeky people that
Yeah.
have huge chunks of money. Like for those of you that follow me on Facebook, you may know that my birthday treat to myself is I actually bought myself a Maltese Falcon.
Yes,
Thinking
I'm
that
so jealous.
thank you. Thinking that like okay, there's got to be like one neurotic guy selling, and I'll probably have to like send an email to a Hotmail account, and he'll be like, I'm so glad for the business, and then I one Google search and like I could have got like an actual metal one with a secret compartment in it. I could have got it.
Oh wow!
I went with resin. I could have gotten it made out of plastic. I could have got it made out of Gouda. I mean, it's just and
Gouda.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The guy was making cheese falcons.
What?
So, I mean, it's just so. So I mean, I think they've realized that there are people with way too much money and way too much time that are willing to pay big bucks for the Yukon Eric with removable ear action figure. I'm so glad I'm with the right people to drop a Yukon Eric
Wait a
reference.
minute, is that a real thing?
And I do want to say I'm very proud that we released a Yukon Eric game card that I got permission from his son or daughter.
That's
I like to
yeah.
keep those names alive.
That is awesome.
Oh yeah. I search hard for those names, and their families are usually really thrilled to be remembered, and I want them to be.
Awesome.
I really.
Who was that in a
love
match
that
against?
Yukon
Do you know? There's a trivia question. Yukon Eric, was that wasn't Killer Kowalski, was it?
Yeah. Well, that was.
It was, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, he had him in, if I recall, in the Tree of Woe, and he came down with like a knee, and the cauliflower ear just. And I guess the referee just calmly put it in his pocket.
That's what I heard.
And that's how. And now Killer Kowalski tells it this way, but he's known to be a little windy.
Mhm.
So who knows? But he said that he went to visit him in the hospital afterwards, and the press, of course, kayfabe was in full effect, and somebody from the press or maybe just a fan, I don't recall, but they come in there and see him, and so they assume that he's taunting him, and so he plays it up, and he's like, and so supposedly according to Kowalski, that's how the name Killer came, but I don't know.
And there we go. Thank you.
You said something nice in chat. I didn't want to think I was ignoring him.
Oh, no, it's Sean Vera, frequent viewer. Thanks for checking us out. Sean says, happy birthday again, Go Show Boss, and congrats on getting your second shot.
Thank
And
you.
Chris just hung up on that napkin saying, thank you, Sean. So
Thank you.
Hey, and thanks for that story, Cindy. I like that. And we did not have a playing card possibility where his ear could fall off, and I regret that. I will have to rewrite it.
Yep, it did. It fell right off.
There's just something about something today that would send a lot of people, including me, into therapy for years. But like, just an ear. I got a free pocket here. Yeah, oh,
Now, the
man.
thing that sends me into therapy is watching the footage of Vader getting his eye knocked out by Hanson.
Oh, God.
Never saw that. I don't want to.
That's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, he comes up and his eye is already swollen, or well, around it, but his eye is like hanging there.
Yeah.
And the old seedy bastard goes, shoves it back in and keeps wrestling.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, it was, and I have an eye thing. Like, I can handle gore as a horror movie aficionado. I mean, gore is no problem, but if it's an eye thing or tooth thing, I'm hiding my eyes.
Remember when those comic books were going too far in the late 40s and 50s with EC? They would deliberately show a needle right by an eye. If you remember those things, and that would get me because, that to me is like, I don't even want to look at that.
Yes.
So I'm getting repeatedly reminded by my son that I promised to watch Star Wars with him, and might need to call things short. But this was a fun chat. You guys want to try it again in another couple weeks?
You know what? Because we never did get around to favorite Silver Age artists, so I feel like we
forgot completely on that one. So.
Yeah, well, that'll be how we keep people watching. We'll say that's coming next time.
You'll have to, at some point in the future, we're going to talk about it. We're not going to tell you when, but at some point. So, you guys aren't watching any TV, are you?
I am. A lot of TV. Well, when I can.
Oh, Mick Foley. Mad respect for Mick. Total respect for Mick. Well, and actually, I tell you, if there is anybody's doubt in anybody's mind about whether or not you should get the COVID shot, when Mick Foley says that COVID is the worst thing that's ever happened to him, I'm like, holy God, can I steal a dose somewhere?
He's got C4 plastic explosives blow him up for crying out loud.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's I've got a friend, a guy who runs the World of Supers RPGs Facebook group, actually, Dominic Summer, good guy. He works in a correctional facility on the East Coast, so he got it there.
Wow.
And he's a long-termer. He's had COVID-19 now symptoms for like months.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're lucky enough to get it, and it's just a low viral load, and you're fine the next day, and the other, it can linger. So yeah, if you get a chance, get yourself vaccinated. Is the right thing to do. So, and on that somber note, I'd like to wrap up this episode of the Tom, Cynthia, and Chris show. And I hope to do it again in a week or two when we may or may not tell you who our favorite Silver Age artists are.
But keep watching. We'll do it eventually.
Yeah.
Wrestling with comics. There we go.
Wrestling.
Hey, that's good.
That's
I
actually
like
pretty
that.
good.
That's a good line.
We can have a guy putting like a chin lock on a copy of Fantastic Four 1.
Just not my copy.
Oh, of course.
I don't have that one.
That's probably the price of a reasonable automobile, if I had to guess right now. I was once able to hold a copy of Captain America #1 from back in the day, and I can't believe the guy only put my grubby 22-year hands on it because it was immaculate. And I looked at the price tag and it was like over $10,000. And I was like, why are you letting me touch this without gloves on? This is crazy.
No doubt.
So anyway.
Tying this podcast in a nice little bow, one of my all-time favorite Jim Cornette stories is Cornette, as a very, very, very small child, he actually talked his mom into paying $30 to get a copy of Amazing Fantasy #15 because that was top rate for a comic back then. And then just a couple 3 years ago, he sold it and completely remodeled his house.
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I bought Spider-Man #1 for $75 in
What?
Well, it was but it was the late 70s. And my mother and father thought, there's obviously something wrong with you.
Boy, what little they knew.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy the value. I mean, I've been talking myself out of buying Bitcoin for the last 2 weeks. I got a guy who works like, man, you get in on this. And I'm like, no, that's going to crash. That's a bubble.
Yeah. Like the 90s bubble. Yeah, there was a 90s bubble for comics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Okay. Well, hey, guys, we'll try this again in 2 weeks. More wrestling with comics.
Absolutely.
Forward to it.
All right, sounds good. All right, hey, Sean, Norbert, thanks. Always pleasant chatting with viewers out there in internet land. And to everyone else, we will catch you next time on Wrestling with Comics. There's an awkward moment when we hit end broadcast where actually